The Indian government held an all-party meeting in New Delhi on Tuesday to discuss the situation in Bangladesh. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar briefed party leaders on the developments in Bangladesh. He will give a suo motu statement regarding the situation in Bangladesh at 3:30 IST in the lower house of the parliament. Earlier, the minister appreciated the unanimous support of and understanding shown by the leaders. People in Bangladesh are waiting to see what unfolds a day after Sheikh Hasina resigned and left the country. Some normalcy returned to the capital of Dhaka as the country awaits the formation of a new government. Army Chief General Wakir-uz-Zaman met protesters on Tuesday. Earlier, the Army Chief held talks with leaders of political parties, excluding Hasina's Awami League, to discuss about the way ahead. President Mohammad Shahabuddin said an interim government will hold elections as soon as possible after consulting all parties and stakeholders. Student leaders want Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus as interim government's chief advisor. They said that they will not accept a military-led government.
We will not accept any other government other than the one proposed by us. We will not accept the government supported by the military or the fascist. Any proxy government or government against the people will not be accepted.
Right, joining us is my colleague Amrit Pal Singh. Amrit, what more can you tell us about the meeting that Minister Jaishankar addressed and spoke to lawmakers about the situation in Bangladesh?
For External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar tried to explain what the situation there is, how the political instability could affect India, and also what the government is doing to secure the borders. The BSF primarily is trying to see to how to secure the borders, and there is no spillover. Also, he apprised them of how the Indian mission there is, working to establish, to see that the India-Bangladesh, the resignation of Sheikh Hasina does not have an impact on the Indo-Bangladesh relations in the long term. Also, in terms of he pressed upon political parties to at this point in time indulge in responsible politics because it could have a cascading effect on the other side as well. So, and he explained that why, under what circumstances Sheikh Hasina was, brought into India, that how the Bangladesh military and Sheikh Hasina got in touch with the Indian government, asking them for her to be flown into India, given that her life was in danger, and how India that she's expressed her interest in moving on to another country, which India respects her decision, and as a neighboring country, why it had to accommodate her here. So the External Affairs Minister basically took the lawmakers into confidence at this all-party meeting and talked about these things.
Right, Amrit Dostrion. Joining us also is Ambassador Veena Sikri. She's a former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh. Ambassador Sikri, welcome to DD India News. How worried would New Delhi be?
Well, New Delhi is watching the situation with a great deal of interest and concern. Because any instability in Bangladesh has a strong possibility of spilling over onto the Indian side, or onto the states bordering Bangladesh. We have a 4,000-kilometer long border. And we do know that because of this worry and concern, that the Indian government has actually established a curfew area, that for 200 meters on the Indian side of the border, a curfew is being observed as of yesterday, and I think it will continue till the situation in Bangladesh comes around to calm. So I think that this is the main concern, and we would like always in Bangladesh for there to be stability, for there to be democracy, and for there to be continued development. So these are the three factors that we look for in Bangladesh at all times. It's a very important neighbor, and a neighbor with whom we had developed a very dynamic win-win situation, a mutually beneficial cooperation, whether it is on connectivity, whether it is on the friendship pipeline, whether it is on the Maitri vaccine, on every aspect, education, infrastructure development, on every aspect, we had a program with Bangladesh. And obviously, we'd like those elements to continue because those are meant for the people of Bangladesh, for their benefit. So if there is going to be any change, there has been a change in government, but the new government should be such that is acceptable to all groups of society. I'm glad to see the statement by the president of Bangladesh, where he has said that he wants early elections by an interim government where all stakeholders are involved.
Including Awami League?
Yes, well, when he says all stakeholders, it has to include the Awami League.
Because Awami League was not invited to the meeting that President held with the army chief and other stakeholders.
No, the army chief had meetings with some parties. The army chief had, and the army chief mentioned in that meeting the Jamaat-e-Islami.
Okay.
Actually, he mentioned Jamaat-e-Islami. So actually, the conclusion many people are drawing is that the Jamaat-e-Islami is playing a preponderant role right now. And in fact, what began as a quota reform movement by the students is actually now morphed into something totally different. Is morphed into, where the Jamaat-e-Islami is trying to take over and control the entire situation through their students' wing, the Islami Chhatra Shibir.
Right.
And we know that, that they have been very, very active. And even in the visuals you saw yesterday from Bangladesh, where you see people are bringing down the statues of Father of the Nation, Sheikh Mujib. Now, this is not students. It's not students who will bring down.
Right.
You can see now in these very same visuals you're showing in Gana Bhavan, which is the Prime Minister's residence. I mean, are these students who are breaking down and taking away pots and pans and paintings and things like that? I mean, this is the same thing that happened in Sri Lanka a year or so ago.
Indeed. Indeed.
So and we saw that in Pakistan as well, where and the people are standing on the tables, and so this is a kind of a anarchy that was being created, and people are carrying away all kinds of things. So I think that the need for stability and calm is very, very important, and it is also good to hear from your report that today the situation is much calmer than yesterday, because the first indication is the first watching point for India is to see how calm this situation is. But who are the people in control? I mean, we heard the voice of one of the students' coordinators, but he's being flanked by others. The student movement does not have any one leader. It is a very amorphous movement. It had coordinators from different universities and different groups, So actually, to say that this is a hierarchical movement and there's one leader like the person who just spoke, no, it's not like that. There are many other groups. In fact, we all know that in the quota reform movement, the students were actually with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And in the appeal to the Supreme Court to abolish the quota, she actually was supported by some students' groups who joined the Attorney General of Bangladesh in appealing to the Supreme Court for the quota. And that decision came on 21st of July, when the Supreme Court said that there'll be only a 5% quota for the children of freedom fighters and 2% for others. So obviously this whole business of talking of students is not really in consonance with what's happening. I mean, all these visuals that you're seeing, and there are people on the street, I don't see that it's the students. In fact, the students accompanied by their parents have probably now gone back to their homes long back, So it's a very different kind of a scenario now that is prevailing. That is, we want to avoid continued instability. That is our main concern, as I would see it.
Well, Sikri, I'll come back to you momentarily. Let me get in a word from my colleague Amrit as well. Amrit, what do we know about the evacuation of Indian nationals from Dhaka, about the Indian High Commission staff for that matter, or students and others?
For the moment, they are staying put there because they've been the Indian government had in any case put out an advisory saying that people should not travel, and those who wish to come back come back. But as there are emergency numbers that the embassy had put out, the High Commission had put out, that for students to get in touch. But right now they're waiting and watching because it is not really targeted. It's really an internal political problem that they're having, and as things calm down, people, those who are doing business there, those who are studying there, may want to, carry on because schools and colleges have been opened, curfew has been lifted.
Right.
But there are said to be about 6,000 in number who study there, and who Indian nationals, 6,000 in numbers who study and do business there. But if they want to come back, of course, once the airport opens, they could come back. But right now there is restriction at the land borders. The land borders have been put on high alert, both in Assam, in Tripura, and also West Bengal, because of the evolving situation. So it's really a wait-and-watch situation, that if there is no danger to life and property of the Indian nationals,
Right.
they can continue to stay here. But the government's kept an option open.
Right. Let me also go back to Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, a couple of quick questions to you. One, Sheikh Hasina has taken shelter in India before. Now, this was after the assassination of Mujib in 1975. Is she seeking shelter in India again? And should India agree to host her, number one? And number two, Pakistan and China can be expected to fish in troubled waters. It should not surprise anyone, least of all India. How should New Delhi navigate the next few days or weeks or months for that matter?
Well, I think it's not a question of Pakistan and China fishing in troubled waters. They may have been causing the troubled waters.
Right.
I mean, the point is that student movements all over the world, we've seen, if the student movements are genuinely independent and launched by and for the students, many of them have petered out. They have discussions with governments, they get their problems resolved, and the movement peters out. But wherever you have seen student movement backed by other forces who come in and then push the students to make certain demands and create the havoc, then you have problems. And I think in Bangladesh, this is what seems to have happened. That they have been the Islami Chhatra Shibir, the students wing of the Jamaat-e-Islami, they seem to have taken over the situation. And at a time when everything was calming down, you had the Islami Chhatra Shibir coming on to fan the movement. On Sunday, the Daily Star of Bangladesh actually put out a study because they had been seeing the deaths that taken place up to that point. And they said there were 204 people who died in all up to Sunday. And of them, only 53 were students. Of course, 53 is why should 53 students die? I agree with you on that. But to say that it's only the students, there were the police officials, there were the civilians, there were the non-students who were there who took part. So, it's a very moot point to first find out exactly how the situation developed. And now, certainly, when you're looking for stability, then you want to have a situation which is accepted by all. Now, we saw that one of the student leaders, coordinators, talking about Professor Dr. Mohammed Yunus. But is he acceptable to others? Is the Jamaat-e-Islami going to accept him as the chief advisor? There are all these questions. Right. And so that is why, despite the passage of about 24 hours now, we don't have an interim government there. We don't have a government. We have the army chief who says he's in control. But then many people say the army chief himself may be on a very weak wicket because he was appointed just about a month or two ago by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina.
Right.
And they say that he's related to her family. So it's a very complex and very volatile situation. We have to be very, very careful in watching it. And I think that the sooner the students resolve it among themselves, right, that would be, Yeah.
Indeed, very complex, very volatile, says Ambassador Sikri. Ambassador Sikri, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and views with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you. Appreciate it. Also, thanks to my colleague Amrit Pal Singh for joining us on this broadcast. Appreciate it. Thank you.